The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the UAB Director's Chair. We call it that because he's the athletic director of your UAB Blazers. He is Mark Ingram. He joins us here. I'm Tony Kurre. Of course, we do our show every single week. And I was just talking to Mark before we started the show. One of the reasons this show has been so successful is, we talk about a lot of UAB athletics. We got basketball season around the corner. Of course, another football game this weekend. But also we talk about other things going on in the world of college sports. So we branch out a little bit. Mark, how you been, man? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm excellent, man. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Let's jump right into it. Big hire there at the Auburn Tigers. John Cohen, after 6-7 years at Mississippi State, becomes the new athletic director at Auburn. And, of course, a lot of people believe that had to happen in order to fire Brian Harsin and to bring in another coach. So the dominoes start to fall in the SEC. And I had a very interesting question, info@TonyKurreRadio.net. And by the way, I had a great conversation with Mike Leach last night, and he probably had one of the greatest quotes. I said, did you know that your athletic director was leaving? And he said, well, he called me a couple days earlier and said that big changes are coming. And he said, and I quote here, he said, I'm surprised that happened, but I'm not surprised when surprising things happen in college football. Three surprises in the same sentence. So the question.
Did he talk about Halloween candy?
No, but he had the flu and he sounded like hell. He coughed through the entire interview. And again, it's also podcast. I got a Tony Kurre Radio podcast. You can listen to it. It went up late last night. So the question was this, from Jason, who's a huge UAB fan. He listens every single week. He's probably listening now. How much power does an athletic director really have at a university? I kind of want you to, and I love having you on because we get to pull the curtain back. Give me the hierarchy of who you have to deal with below you, on top of you, and what kind of changes can Auburn expect by having a new athletic director?
Well, I'm not sure I like the word power. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure anybody has any power. I don't have a shield and a sword here. With, I don't have a wreath around my head. There's nothing like that. Yeah. I mean, you're responsible for all operations, all facets of the athletic department. So all the coaches report to the athletic director. All the administrative staff report to the athletic director, but the athletic director reports to the president. And in our case, we have the Alabama system. So our president reports to the system chancellor. So thus I do too. Mm-hmm. And then the chancellor reports to the board. So I do too. So that's who you have, the reporting structure upward and downward in terms of, just if you're looking at the organizational chart, you're responsible for all the hires within the athletic department. So all coaching hires are made by the athletic director. Now, you have a search for a high-profile coach, like a football coach or a basketball coach, particularly in a place like the SEC. You're talking about a person who's probably the most visible person on campus. And so you're not making that decision in a vacuum without anybody's input or anybody else's thought. And I'm just saying this is how I would do this, and how I do it here is I make sure that Dr. Watts is comfortable with who I'm about to hire before I make the offer. I say, this is who it is. This is their background. This is why I think he or she is going to be successful and why I want to hire this person. And assuming he's good with it, I said, here's what the compensation package looks like. And he gives me the thumbs up and we go forward. And I think that's pretty common. I would have assumed that's standard everywhere it is anywhere else that I've worked.
Well, and assuming that you're doing a great job and your hires are making hay for your athletic program, that's obviously going to give you more leverage in order to be looked at and heard from. But I would also understand there's probably some athletic directors that would say, hey, listen, I think this is the right hire, and the president probably trumps you, right? I mean, says, listen, I don't think, and or in an Auburn situation, and I'm not telling anyone that nothing. A lot of people say there's way too many fingers in the pie down there. There's way too many boosters. There's too many trustees. There's too many presidents. There's too many faculty. There's too many people that want to have a say in who Auburn's next head coach will be, and that should be an athletic director decision, correct? I mean, I'm assuming that's why they brought John in.
Well, ultimately it is, and it is, but you're still going to get input. We're going through a coaching search here, as you know, for our head football coach. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of opinions and input as well, and I've asked for a lot of it. I went to our athletic foundation board, which is 65 people, and I just said, tell me any qualities or characteristics you think we should be looking for in our next head coach. And if they want to send me names or that sort of thing, they can do that. I don't mind that. And but really talking about the qualities of the individual, what are the sort of things we think are important. I did that went through that same exercise with our alumni board, it was probably 20 people on that call. I don't mind that outside sort of thought, and I appreciate that while most of it is something I've already considered, thought of, it isn't always the case. And they say something that makes you go, okay, I hadn't really thought of it in those terms. And, I just think it's helpful in the process. I also have probably a larger committee of people that help me here internally within the athletic department than some people do. And I do that because I respect their opinion, number one, and they help keep me in check. And when we interview a candidate, I can say, did you hear what Tony said? Did he say that the way I thought? How did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
And we may not hear things the same when you give your answer. And then secondly, it's really good for their careers. So the opportunity for them to say that they participated in the search for a head football coach or a head baseball coach or a head soccer coach, whatever it is good for them professionally too. So it's good for everybody involved. It helps me, ultimately choose the best candidate available to us.
He is Mark Ingram, is the athletic director of the UAB Blazers, and of course another big ball game coming up this week. College hoops gets started in earnest next Monday night against Alabama State, so we're looking forward to that, and we'll talk more about that coming up in a few minutes. All right, so you just mentioned it. You are in the process of making a hire. Obviously, Bryant Vincent's the interim coach right now, and his name's certainly thrown into that hat. 4-4 on the season. You are undefeated, and by the way, you're the only team in Conference USA who's undefeated at home. So if you're going to go see a ball game, that would be a great reason to go check out, obviously, the big ball game against UTSA this weekend. So where are you? What's the timeline if you're a UAB football fan or a college football fan? What's the timeline on making your next hire? I realize we have a recruiting process that's coming up in December. A lot of people said maybe that's why Auburn made the decision when they did, so they could catch up on some 2023 class members. But what is your timeline as far as in finding your next head coach for your football program?
Well, I've got that same early signing date in mind as well. We'd like to have an announcement made, I would say, by the first week of December. That would be ideal, maybe a little sooner than that if we can. I don't have a specific date that I'm trying to get to for the announcement as much as at least be 2 weeks or, roughly 2 weeks in front of that signing date in December. So you want, for the sake of the kids who have committed, to know who their coach is going to be, whether it's Bryant Vincent or not. You want them to know who that is. That's doing right by them. And they may wish to stay. They may wish, to go a different direction. And but then you've got other kids that have not committed that may say, hey, you know what? I want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And I told somebody the other day, it's almost like, think of the position of fullback. And I do this because my son is a fullback. Mm-hmm. Some offenses run a fullback and some don't.
Yeah.
And if you're a fullback and you were going to come here and now all of a sudden we hire somebody whose offense is not going to feature a fullback, you probably shouldn't come here, and so you're trying to give those prospects an opportunity to make the best decision that they can for themselves. And of course that frees up a space for the incoming coach to hire personnel, or not hire, but recruit personnel that better fits their system.
You've been there quite some time now, and I do think it's really interesting. This is kind of a dumb question, but just talk about the fact that you have a new stadium. I mean, talk about a great recruiting tool, not only for kids, but for certainly your next head coach. I mean, that is obviously just the jewel in the crown right there, right? I mean, as opposed to hiring maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it's a totally different animal at UAB right now. Yeah,
it's totally different. And, our practice facility is the main thing. And we built this fantastic practice facility.
It's beautiful.
Over here on campus. And, we won 2 championships and 3 division titles playing at Legion Field, but we had this practice facility. Protective Stadium is phenomenal and mainly for our fans. But yes, it certainly is good for recruiting a coach and for recruiting higher level prospects as well. But what I love about Protective Stadium really is about what it does for our fan base and people who come watch us. Our players are there as often as the fans.
Yeah.
Players are there 6 days a year. They'll have a few walkthroughs and things, but they live at this practice facility. And the combination of those two things together is, to your point, really says we're committed to football and football being successful here. And the feedback that I'm getting from coaches that are interested in our job is that they know they can win.
Yeah.
They know they can come here and win. It's been proven you can come here and win. And now layer in addition to the facilities, we got this phenomenal university. We've got a great city. It's an affordable city. People love football. They care about the sport here. There's a lot of talent in the state of Alabama. And then there's a lot of talent in the states around Alabama. So you're a bit of a hotbed, as they say, a really fertile recruiting ground here in the Southeast where you can get a ton of great talent to come here and win championships.
It's the UAB Director's Chair. He is Mark Ingram. He's the athletic director for the UAB Blazers. Kind enough to join us every single week here for a great podcast on TKR. You can hear it on Tony Kurre Radio. Thanks to tens of thousands of folks who've already downloaded the podcast and certainly the app. And you can check those out at Tony Kurre Radio Podcast. We're up on every major indice. So wherever you get your podcast, you can see the Director's Chair. It has been a very transitional year for the UAB Blazers. They're 4-4. We mentioned you're undefeated at home. And now you're getting ready to go into the AAC next year. And I'm just, as a football fan and as a UAB fan, I'm just super excited to see the names like Tulane and East Carolina and Navy and SMU and the Memphises that are going to be on your schedule. I looked at the early peak of the 2023 schedule. You start against North Carolina A&T. You can correct me if I'm wrong here. Georgia Southern, Louisiana, and then, of course, you got the Georgia Bulldogs down in Athens. Just talk about how fresh and exciting that is to see that. You're obviously, and it's a great time to have a new coach because, this is going to be new to him too, and I don't know where that coach is going to be coming from. But obviously, you get to know the teams in your conference over a period of time. Your coaches know about the Conference USA foes, and all of a sudden, they're going to have to go ahead and start looking at all kinds of different types of systems and everything else that comes with that. But as an athletic director, going into the AAC next season, July 1st, what's it like for you? What kind of challenges do you have? What kind of changes do you need to make? Or do you just kind of stick to your guns? You're an athletic director for UAB, and it doesn't matter what conference you're in, that's the way it is.
Well, I think we're doing a lot of good things. And so we don't need to make, monumental changes structurally with our staff, with our team, anything like that. We're hiring a football coach based on the opponents we're going to be playing against. So we're not hiring a Conference USA coach. We're hiring somebody who's ready for the American Athletic Conference. And so that's our mindset, and that's our mindset moving forward with any other coach that we may need to hire in the future. We know there's some differences with our facilities in some sports. We talked about football. I feel really good about where we are with football, probably better in football than a lot of people in the country, not just the American Athletic Conference. So I'm really happy with where we are there. We just built a basketball practice facility. I'm excited about that. We need to take a really hard look at the arena. We need to take a look at Bartow Arena and what can we do to the bones of it are great. It has served us well. The size is great, but what can we do to improve that for our fan experience the same way we did Protective? So we're gonna take a look at that and see what's reasonable there, but also to make sure that, again, we're on par or better than our American peers. And so we got to keep doing that, facility by facility and making sure that we're providing everything we need for our students and our coaches, but then also our fans.
And I think the fact that Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF obviously got poached by the Big 12 bodes well for a conference you're getting into, because that means you're playing big boy football, and that's good. Let me ask you this question. I don't know if I ever asked you this question, and I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, why the change? Why did UAB decide to leave Conference USA and go to the AAC?
I think the opportunity to play a higher profile group of institutions that academically are a lot more like us. That was really important to our president, to our provost, is that we look a lot more like some of those schools, and that's important for our peer group to feel like the people that are that we're aligned with are like us. So academically, it was really positive. The footprint is nearly identical to Conference USA, so it's not a change there. It's not a radical move there in terms of geography for travel and that sort of thing. Some differences, but again, it's just not a radical difference. We were already playing Old Dominion, which is in on the coast of the east coast of Virginia, sort of northern Virginia. And so, now we've got to go to Navy, which is a little farther north, and Philadelphia Temple, which is farther north. But, we were going to Marshall. We were already going to Hattiesburg and Ruston, Louisiana, and we were already going all the way out to UTEP. So, but the general footprint is about the same. We were already going to Boca, and we still will be, and so to go to South Florida is not anything unusual. So we were going to Charlotte, and we'll continue to go to Charlotte. Going to East Carolina is not unusual, just to give you the idea there. But we just feel like it's a better opportunity for us also from an exposure standpoint. They've got an exclusive arrangement with ESPN, so that's exciting for us to get our brand broadcast nationally on the worldwide leader in sports, which is really important for us. And again, as a university, and then when you look at the ability to take our flag and go to other major cities, like these new cities that we're talking about, like Tampa and New Orleans and Tulsa, up to Philadelphia and to the greater Baltimore area with Navy, being able to do that. We're going to go to SMU, to Dallas. Being able to do that is great for student recruiting as well. Generally, urban campuses like UAB have good success when recruiting other students who are from urban environments. So because they're not intimidated by the city. So in addition to all the recruitment you do in your state, you also look at these other places where you think a student might be interested in taking a look, because we're not that different than the place they grew up. And so that's also really positive for us to be able to go to those major cities from a student recruitment standpoint. So there's a lot of really positive things about it, and being able to bring those other high-profile teams into our stadiums and arenas to be able to compete will hopefully draw more fans and more interest here locally too.
Can you talk a little bit about the scheduling as well too? And I'm not sure if you're actually part of that. I'm assuming you would be. I go back 10 or 15 years ago where it seemed like you had to play 2 to 3 Power 5 schools, and they were normally really good. I know you got Georgia on the schedule next year to get that payday. And then when people realize, hey, listen, maybe you just play one of those games a year, because, I mean, you're sitting there 3-0. You just played 3 cupcakes before your conference schedule. Then, of course, you've got like 3 tough teams, and next thing you know, you're 3-3, 3-4. The morale of the program seems to be down a little bit because you had these big boys coming in, and then you finish up with your conference play. And UAB has not done that. They still pick one of those crown jewels in one of those games. Obviously, it's great from a national perspective for your program, but who does it? I know they're years out in advance, but who decides the scheduling, and what will the scheduling look like when you get into the AAC?
Yeah, so the excuse me, Tony, the non-conference scheduling is what you're talking about. The conference scheduling is issued to you by the conference. We asked to have we'd like to play Memphis because of the geographic advantage there. We'd like to play them as often as we can for our fans' sake. And it's just, I think, important for both schools this close to be able to do that. But the non-conference scheduling, the head coach and I work on that together. You may recall, if you look back at the 2014 schedule, before football was eliminated, we played Arkansas and Mississippi State. And when the program was eliminated, all future games were canceled.
Yeah.
So we had to restart that scheduling process, and obviously did. And but when we did it, we took a new philosophy, which was, to your point, let's play one Power 5 opponent who, yes, pays us to be there. It's called a guarantee game. It helps with our budget, but it's 1, not 2. And this is all in an effort to be, first of all, back then it was like, let's just be bowl eligible. Yeah. What do we need to do to get 6 wins? Yeah. And then let's do that 2 years in a row, and then 3 years in a row, and then let's talk about conference titles. And so that was the purpose of that, was, to your point, to not play too many of those. It doesn't mean you can't beat them. We beat LSU, as you know, years ago at LSU. So it's not like it can't be done, but you're trying to give your team the best chance to be successful. And so we moved to one FCS opponent. So you mentioned North Carolina A&T. We'll pay them a guarantee to come here and play us. Then we'll we'll play at Georgia. They'll pay us to be at Georgia. And then we pick 2 other teams from other peer leagues that we go home and home with. So there's no financial exchange. We play them, they play us, and that's the agreement. And you could do that you could do 2 games or 4 games, however you like, and you pick out the dates and the years that it works out best for you. So, you mentioned next year we have Georgia Southern, which is we're going to go down there after they were here this year, and then play Louisiana Lafayette. So, so we're excited about that. Both those teams, they're both in the Sun Belt. I think that'll be great for us. They're both they've had a lot of success at different times. Georgia Southern, who we were fortunate enough to beat this year, but they had just come off a win against Nebraska. So they've got a great coach in Clay Helton, and I'm sure they'll continue to improve. The
UAB Director's Chair here with Mark Ingram, the athletic director for the UAB Blazers. He joins us every single week. Wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to the show. Fresh shows every single week. And no question, too tough for Mark Ingram. We have an agreement here. I'll pretty much throw whatever, and he'll tell me to get lost if he doesn't want to answer the question. But I'll ask him anything, and we'll ask you some classic rock questions here in just a few seconds. I've got to mention Dwayne McBride. He has been such a fun guy to watch, not only this year, but certainly in his career. He's been named one of the semifinalists for the Maxwell Award, 20 different guys. He's the only group of 5 player named out of 20 guys. Man, when you see his name around the Bryce Youngs and the CJ, I mean, it's amazing the guys that he's being associated with, and certainly has a chance not only to be the college football leader in total yards, but also rushes per attempt. Right now he's averaging just under 7 yards per rush. Can you talk about him a little bit and just how fun he is to watch and how important it is to have a guy with a national perspective and a national feel in your program?
Well, he's a big bruising back, not unlike you, Tony. He's a big, great vision guy, big, strong guy, and runs super hard to take down. Really special player with a great offensive line in front of him, helping to make all that happen. And so it's not to give the old coaches speak, it's a team effort, but it is. And balancing a passing game, we've got some talented wide receivers balancing that and keeping our defense off balance, and then just going hat on a hat and blocking guys, and then he'll make somebody miss or he'll run over them. And he's a lot of fun to watch. We're super proud of the way he's playing and having the sort of year that we really expected him to have, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's fantastic. All right, some classic rock. You ready to go? I know you're a classic rock, and if you go to Protective Life this Saturday, you're going to hear all kinds of, I know you do a lot of classic rock stuff. When the defense is on the football field, you do more of a dance kind of thing for the offense to kind of get everyone in the mood. But we did have a question. What is Mark Ingram's first concert he ever saw?
Oh, man. First concert. So my dad, I think I mentioned this last week. My dad was in the radio business when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet my first concert was the Beach Boys.
That's good.
I bet it was the Beach Boys. He and a couple other people owned 9 radio stations in Virginia, North and South Carolina, and there was one on the coast of North Carolina that was, as they called it, beach music, oldies, and I bet it was the Beach Boys.
All right, the Beach Boys.
I've seen Merle Haggard and Linda Ronstadt, because we had a country station in Virginia, and so I've seen a lot of different stuff.
All right, so what's your best concert you ever saw?
Probably Kiss with the makeup.
Oh, yeah. Is this pre-Creatures, or is this so this is pre-Lick It Up days?
No, man, it was sort of reunion tour. It was after they had been making new music. It was in the mid '90s. I saw them twice, once in Knoxville, once in Memphis. What's incredible about those guys is they're not trying to mess it up. They figured out they've got a formula, and you can go to their show today and it's the same show you'd have seen 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, almost verbatim, what they say, where they stand, what they do, the order of it all. I mean, there's really there's no variation to it. And somebody might say, well, that's boring. Well, the place is packed. I mean,
no, they don't. If it's working, you don't change it. How long's your tongue?
Not as long as Gene said.
And finally, and I love to throw this question, dead or alive, what's one concert you have not seen that you'd like to see? You pick anybody you want to see it. They could be dead. Maybe it's Jerry Lee Lewis who just passed away. What's one concert you would love to have seen, but you never got a chance to see it?
Well, I saw Prince, who was incredible.
Yeah.
I never saw Michael Jackson. I would have liked to have seen Michael or,
me too.
or Elvis. These had to be fantastic shows. I would imagine they were just fantastic shows. People like the Beatles, just where people are just going crazy. They're out of their mind seeing these mega stars. That would have been fun.
That's great. Hey, Mark, great stuff, man. Appreciate your time. We're grateful you join us every single week. I will see you on Saturday, 2:30 for kickoff against UTSA. UAB undefeated at home. They're a small dog at home this weekend. They'll get the victory and go 5-0. And, of course, don't forget hoops. We failed to mention that. Talk about the basketball program. Kicks off on Monday night at camp. Exhibition win. Very, very nice. Goes off on a 16-2 run to kick off that ball game. Jelly looked fantastic. The basketball team's ready to go, right?
Basketball is great, man. Yeah. Basketball is really, really tough. They had a exhibition game, as you said, Monday night. Our ladies had theirs on Tuesday night. Both teams have really improved talent-wise, speed, athleticism. I would say both teams are bigger. They've gotten taller and longer. So I think you'll be able to see them score and defend much better than last year. And to say that for our guys who won the conference title is quite a statement. So I'm excited about those guys. You mentioned our game this Saturday with San Antonio. We've played great at home. It's almost been like Murphy's Law on the road. We've lost by 7 or fewer points in each of our losses on the road. But our fans are a big part of why we're winning at home. And so I hope that our fans will come out and support the team. 2:30 against right now number 1 ranked UT San Antonio this Saturday. So I appreciate that and look forward to seeing everybody at Bartow Arena and at Protective Stadium as well. I got a question for you, Tony.
Yeah.
You said that today is Adam Ant's birthday.
Yes.
Do you think that Adam Ant still does that makeup eye black from ear to ear across his cheekbones? You think he still does that?
I think in concert he still does. It's kind of
every day. You think he just walks around like that every day?
No, I think he did. I know for a fact he used to wear makeup just as a normal Joe walking down the street. He didn't do the face paint stuff, full face paint when he was walking to go to Walmart. But he did wear some eyeliner. And it was interesting too. And I'm glad you brought this up because we talk about those kids in high school. You got the Iron Maiden and the gothic kind of people that you stayed away from because they just scared the hell out of us. You had the Van Halen guys, you had the soft rock guys who didn't get laid till they're like 22. And then, of course, you had the geek people, the people that were into like Devo and Adam Ant. And Adam Ant was like, I didn't even know who Adam Ant was. I got 4 of his albums until the Goody Two Shoes thing came out. Talking Heads, kind of the same thing. When Burn Down a House came out, I was like, who is this band? And then you go back and listen to some of their previous stuff, and they were really good. It just wasn't their time. We just weren't ready for that type of music. And Adam Ant was that guy. His early stuff was fantastic. I mean, it was life-changing. It was fantastic. So great stuff. All right, Mark, we'll catch up next week. Great stuff. Go get yourself a victory. And by the way, before I forget, I went to a basketball game, several obviously last year, and a couple of games you had a disc jockey on the floor. I loved it. I just thought it was totally different. The disc jockey was kind of playing to the PA announcer. He was spinning records down there, down in one corner of the. Just an idea, just something that was. It was totally.
Like to mix it up, Tony.
It was totally cool. Yeah, just and I used.
You're interested in the gig? Is that what you're?
Well,
I
was the one playing Sammy Hagar at proms, dude. I did it back in my senior and freshman year in college. So I think I still got my Technic 1200s and my PV, my SPPVs 3s out in the garage, so I could blow the dust off and get out there. All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, Tony. Thank you, man.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.